Hello everybody, welcome back to those who've been hanging with me some time, and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. I'm Adele Levine, intuitive and medium. All right, we're going to get started. First, we're going to acknowledge girls rule, or I should say women rule. Women and girls. Yeah. Also wanted to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. Wanted to let everybody know that I'm going to be doing a crystal class, and this class is going to be on how to use the energy of crystals on the 27th. So that is exciting. Thank you for all those who have purchased my medium gallery last weekend, and this weekend is sold out. You should check out my latest podcast, Peering into the Narrow Room, Expanding Your Spirit and Mind. My latest guest is Amanda Wyss. She is an actress, and one of the movies that she starred in was the Freddy movies, Nightmare on Elm Street, and we actually talk about that on this podcast. It's a very interesting one. How is that tied into spirituality? You should see. It very much is. It's very revealing on my end and her end, so I think you'll enjoy. All right, let's get started into the subject at hand. So today's subject, I've been wanting to do this for some time. I mean, most of the subjects I cover on here, I've been wanting to do some time, but I particularly wanted to do this subject because it comes up now and again. It's kind of fade off, and that's the idea of star children. What does that mean for those of you who might be new to this spiritual world here? And it isn't aliens, it isn't that sort of thing, although sometimes it's tied in, but it is the idea that there are some of us, meaning children and even adults, who come from almost like a special place, that are special children that are born here, star children. The idea that they're more enlightened, more evolved, and they've come and here to earth, obviously through birth, meaning like their spirit, their makeup has come into this planet to enlighten us all. Now, do I believe in star children? If you guys have been watching me, you know I'm going to say something that's a little bit different than what everybody says. No, I don't believe in star children, and I'll tell you why. We all are star children. What I mean by that is that we all come from the realm that we return to and the realm that we come from. So what does that mean? Someone had asked me when I did a video on the movie Soul. They had asked me like, what the terminology in that movie was, like the before, like where are we before? I'm going to cover a little bit about that in this video. And what I'm going to cover is just simply this. I believe that we all come from the same place before we come into this world. We all return to the same place, and that is the other realm. And I feel that there isn't anybody. Saying star children kind of implies they're special people, meaning they're special people that are walking around, and aren't they lucky? They're star children. They're more psychic, they're more intuitive, they're more aware, they're more evolved. And I just don't see it that way. I feel that we progress every time there's a new generation. Right now, there's been a battle between it looks really silly, but the battle between the X generation, which is right here, and the Z generation, which is the newest generation, and the millennial generation, especially the older millennial. And there seems to be mostly the battle between the millennial and the Z. And they bring this up because people are kind of going about, who knew what and who was right, and everybody's kind of having this thing online about which generation was right, which one was better, which one's more evolved. And of course, the millennials are getting a little hurt because they're being called old. Welcome, millennials. You've been calling the X generation old for some time. So, cute cats eating. So, this is how it is. Progression, and evolvement. Every generation is here to push us into a new evolvement. Does it seem like older generations weren't as evolved? yeah, that's probably true from where you're sitting. I myself have heard people say something about the X generation. Comment below and yeah, please tell me which gen you're coming from, which one you're hailing from. And I've had people say that, called out our generation as the boomer generation. We are not the boomer generation. And we've had kind of an adversary about the boomer generation when I was growing up because they were so different, because they didn't seem to care about childhood and growth. And when the Generation X became parents, we were really called like helicopter parents and things like this, meaning like the parents of wanting the best and taking care of that next generation, which is called the millennial generation, depending on when you had children. Because some people have children older, you're in the Z generation, meaning your children are the Z generation. And I bring this up because I want to make a point. I want to make a point that progression and evolvement is supposed to happen. Every generation is supposed to push us into an evolved state, of thinking. It is true that to us, if we were growing up in a certain gen, me being X, where pretty much we were treated like children are seen but not heard. That is pretty much what our generation was raised to believe. Yes, of course, we're going to feel that the next generation is almost like a star child because we are going to see them as more evolved, but we are also evolving. And so we are going to be more evolved parents. And same with the next generation, the millennial generation raising the Z generation. They're going to feel like their children are more evolved and more sensitive and more compassionate, more intuitive, and all those things. But is that because you came from the star special place? Or is it because each generation comes in with a job? And that is what I believe. I believe each generation comes in with a job. I feel that my generation, the Generation X gen, we were trying to buck the trend of corporate working, of only, killing yourself for corporations and taking, that watch after 40 years of work. We had watched our parents work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, only to die young and only to be rewarded maybe a pen or a watch. And we, believe it or not, decided, because those who forget, we were going to make a change. We were going to buck the trend. We were going to move into a progression, a more evolved. And some of us were ridiculed for that, and we were also looked at as like, oh, this kind of wiser generation. But the 60s were like that, the 70s. Every generation is going to push us into progression. So we are all star children coming from a place from this other realm where we are going to push us into a new world, a new way of thinking. Has this last year been like a big push? Yeah, it has, for sure. Has this last year pushed us way further into the future, into the world that we need to evolve into? It certainly has. But to say that the Z generation, which I've heard this, or even I used to hear millennial parents say this about Generation X say this about their children, and say that they're star children, that these kids are coming in. Yes, it is going to feel like that to us. I've even said, oh, these kids are coming in to push us, but that's their job. If we allow them to, they will push us into an awakening and awareness. So I feel the idea of doing star child, I'm a star child, or I have a child that's a star child. Maybe look at yourself. Are you tuning in more to your kids? Are you tuning in and realizing that children are actually important? This is the new world we're trying to move into, valuing childhood, valuing children. Each generation gets better at it. We haven't quite moved into the concept of raising children consciously. I mean, we have moved into it, but we haven't landed firmly in the idea, because you can just take a look around at how children are still treated. And we haven't fully firmly landed in the idea that childhood is sacred and important and should be taken seriously. The whole way I see people treating like, oh, rolling their eyes about kids and treating kids like, oh, trying to be the cool parent and trying to treat children like, I'm going to be honest, kids being parents are hard and everything. Is that part of us trying to progress as people and to look at parents as people? Absolutely. But it is also coinciding with the concept of conscious parenting, of being aware of children and the value of being a parent. So we get closer to an evolved state of parenting, and the idea that each generation is coming in with something a little bit more and a little bit more evolved and a little bit more aware than the next. And so therefore, to me, we are all star children if you're awake and conscious. Does that mean everybody born of a certain gen is this star child? No. But it isn't also to deem a special plaque onto your chest going, I am a star child, therefore I am special. This is where it gets leery. This is where you have to be careful. That hierarchy that people tend to put in spirituality and the idea of deeming people more special than others, we have to be careful. What I mean by that, saying I was born as a star child, so therefore, you got to be careful of that. It is more the idea that if we are being conscious and we are being aware and we are trying to raise children in a more conscious way, and if we are trying to teach children in a more conscious way, then we are definitely honing, shaping star children. We are creating and helping teach this new generation of children each generation to evolve and to be more conscious. I think that's a fair thing to say and makes more sense and doesn't kind of deem this idea of I'm a star child, so therefore, or my child's a star child. If you're treating children this way, then you're treating them to be in tune to their intuition, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, and to be aware of the world. And is that starting to happen? Absolutely, whether people want to believe it or not. We are creating each time, we're getting closer to the conscious state that we're trying to all evolve to. And they do teach us to reflect back to ourselves, to question, are we truly progressing? Are we evolving? And that is the point of each generation stepping in. It's not just about a generation. It's about a new flock of beings beaming down to this earth into a human body to push us into a higher state of awareness. And to me, that is why if you are choosing to be conscious and aware, and you are choosing and working on evolving. What I mean by working is keeping your heart open, and you're keeping yourself open to the idea that this is where we're moving toward, then you are an evolved star child. You're a star child. Star child to me is just someone who's trying to grow and evolve, and that includes parents who are trying to help their children to do so as well. So there's no need for these titles so that we feel so maybe kind of making us feel a little bit above someone else. We don't need those titles, to me. So comment below if you have had this experience where you feel that maybe someone's even said this to you, like, oh, my child's a star child, or I have a star child. I just feel that that is getting into dangerous territory. Is it true that people believe that there's literally children from different planets that they're connected to and they came to Earth in this human form through you? Yes, but that's a whole other video, guys. And if you'd like me to do that one, let me know. But in the meantime, I kind of wanted to kind of put a kibosh on the idea. Maybe we shouldn't be labeling people in this kind of way, because I do feel like it makes people feel like you need to be born in a certain way. Otherwise, you weren't deemed as this, special child or your child isn't this special child. It's almost like being taught to people that, oh, this is why they're acting this way because they're a star child. No, they're acting this way because we evolve every time. This is called progression. And if you are being a parent or a teacher or someone in this arena and you're helping with that, then that also is helping us evolve. I hope this made sense. I hope this gave a little different insight or different view of a subject that I know is actually pretty popular, believe it or not. I wanted to let people know I'm going to take this special probably only for another month with the code PEACE, with 50% off my readings if you go to my website. I also made a couple of changes on my website, just a few. If you want to check that out in the booking area, you'll see some different options. Thank you guys so much. Follow yourself, follow no one, and listen to your inner voice, and I'll see you soon.